Guys, welcome to Limitless, the podcast. It's been a while since I've actually recorded a podcast. I think it's been a few months, but we continuously see that people are continuously downloading new episodes, and that's inspired myself and my co-host is Christina. Some of you will know her from previous podcasts like Ace or all the other podcasts that I've done. So they're Authentic Conscious Entrepreneurships. They're the podcasts I had Christina on with me. Christina Tindale, welcome.
Thanks, Sogi. It's good to be back in the studio with you. Well, in my LA studio and you in your Bondi studio. It's awesome to be back. And, it's inspiring just to see, we just did a tour. We did the actual Limitless tour. You came along. And it was awesome because we're in Portugal, and first of all, the tour was in Sydney, Los Angeles, and then we finished off in Portugal, and we finished off with a bang there. It was a bang of an event. It was a really powerful. The event is called Limitless, and in the last 15 years of me delivering this work, I think that was my most profound, most powerful, most memorable. I got to say, it stayed with me, that one day event that we did. And I'm so glad, Christina, that we recorded that. Like, we didn't record LA. Sydney, we recorded, but some things went wrong technical wise, as they sometimes do. But in Portugal, we had a crew there. We hired a film crew. They filmed the event. And why I'm so glad about that is because I get to share it with our listeners. So straight off the bat, like I'm telling you guys, if you have not experienced that event, you can grab it on my website now and you'll get immediate access. I believe that gives you 7 days to go through the product. And I tell you what, it truly is phenomenal, that one day event. And it wasn't just me that felt like this was the best event I've ever held. It was the audience, and since that event, we've run an online event. I've done a live online, and we took a whole bunch of. Last month we took over 100 people through that event, and it's just been, it's just to cherish, because when I do the live online versions, we create a WhatsApp group for the month that we're doing this, and everyone is part of that, and I'm part of it, and my facilitators are part of it, and everyone's just contributing, and they're posting questions, and I'm posting responses to their questions. I'm doing video responses, audio responses. Once I was in the sauna and I just turned the camera on, and I remember doing this record. Anyway, it's been phenomenal. It's been phenomenal for the people who were there live. It's been phenomenal for the people who've now been watching the recording of that program, and it's been even more phenomenal for those who actually join me live online. And at the time of this recording that we're doing right now, I'm and this could change, but I'm at the moment doing the live version online once a month. So the great thing is that when you do purchase the Limitless product, not only do you get immediate access, but you also get to join me live at some point in that month. So you get it, you get the product twice. You get it, so what we call evergreen. So you get to watch it in your own time, within the 7 days, and then you get it again where you join me and live. And when I say live, it's live online. I actually run Zoom calls. Christina, you look at me like going, "Are we going to start the podcast?" I'm excited about it, Chrissy. You're looking at me going, "Zogi, it's been 4 minutes and you just talked about Limitless." But I know you know how powerful that product is, and I just hope that if our listeners have not experienced that product, do yourself a favor. It's very, very affordable. I won't tell you how much it is because who knows when you listen to this, because you might listen to this in 2 years and it might not be the same price, but just go to the website and you'll find the details there. Yeah. No, I've been over here just nodding in agreement because I'm not trying to say, move it along, Zogi. I'm nodding in agreement because for me, I can't tell you how many times I've seen you deliver your 1 day or 2 day programs, and it was a very, very special one. And I've watched the recording since then
as well. And I feel the same. I'm so happy that it was captured and we had it done properly. And you know, it was also extremely special to see the people going through it in the online version, because just watching the experience they had as well was very, very special. So, and it's funny that,
sorry. I was just going to say, one of my favorite things was the people coming up to you going, "You're Christina, you're the voice of the people." Because when we've done podcasts in the past, I've said Christina is the voice of the people, because people post, ask Christina, ask Amir this, ask Amir this or that, and you ask the question. So I always say Christina, for those who don't know, in previous podcasts, I call her the voice of the people. So it was so awesome that people come up to you and go, "You're Christina, you're the voice of the people." So
yeah, big shout out to everyone in Portugal that came and gave me a hug and said that they recognized me from the podcast. That was very special to connect with people on the other side of the world. But it was actually inspired by rewatching that Limitless program is where I came up with what I wanted to talk to you about today. Because I've been, following your work and working with you closely for 10 plus, maybe it's now 12. I don't know how many years now.
We stopped counting after 10.
We stopped counting, right? And I cannot believe that I have not gotten a chance to ask you this question. And I was sitting there and I'm watching the video and I'm like, how did Amir come to contemplate infinity? Like, it's such an important part of your work. And I'm like, how did that become what you started, asking yourself and going and pondering about? And how did that become your thing, like infinity? And so I had to ask you.
It's a really great question, and I'm absolutely fascinated with that word infinity or infinite. And today we run the Limitless events, and Limitless is the same. It's another way of saying infinity. And I mean, how can you not be fascinated by that word? And we hear continuously, as well, I did anyway, as I was growing up, that we have infinite possibilities. And, even our brain has so much more capacity to comprehend, to apply, to create, to do things but we don't use the full capacity of our brain. As we know, we at the very most, we use 10% if we're lucky. I mean, there's so much more capacity just for your brain. But yeah, I've always heard that, we have infinite potential. We, all the things that you're looking for, you're reading in a book, you're going to seminars, you already know the answer, because it's within those infinite possibilities. And that is what stands out with my work. I'm actually teaching people how to reach within themselves and find the answer for themselves. I'm not giving people the answer. It's not what I'm here to do. All I'm doing is connecting them back to their infinite version of themselves. And that is what we keep saying. We want to be the best version of ourselves. We say that all the time. We want to be the greatest version. We came here to become the greatest version of ourselves. Well, that is your infinite self. We came here not to be limited. We came here to be infinite. And the way, what that looks like for me is you being an infinite being in a finite world. Finite world meaning you still are born, you still die, because something that's infinite is never born and never dies. It has no parameters, has no beginning, has no end, right? It's timeless. But we are experiencing ourselves in this physical reality, in what we know as duality. We experience our limitations with that. So, for example, there is gravity. Gravity is a physical limitation. It's got its pros and cons. One of the pros is it keeps our feet planted on the ground. We don't just fly off. For those who have been to, out into space, there is challenges out when you go into space, because you can just float away and you have to find a way
way to eat, find a way to do poos or go to the toilet, or all kinds of, just to give you, of what I'm trying to say is that, that is every limitation has pros and cons, but that limitation doesn't limit us. It doesn't limit a mind that is infinite, and that's where you become infinite. You don't become infinite in this physical reality, because don't get me wrong, your physical reality changes. The way you experience your physical reality, the way you experience your story, your life, your relationships, your finances, your health changes when your mind becomes infinite. And that's where we become infinite. We become infinite in our mind. And when I say we ultimately, like what I've come to understand, and where the place that I've reached, and where I support people to reach for themselves within themselves, is that we are an infinite being in a finite world. But the finite world is not there to be a limitation. The finite world is there so we can experience ourselves in duality. What that ultimately means, and again, this may not drop in right now, and again, I promise you, if you watch my Limitless product, it will drop in, because I explain this all in more detail. But in duality, we can experience two infinites. And that's something you can't experience in, let's call it, infinite land, because if you truly comprehend what infinite is, there can only be one. Because if something has no beginning or end, well, there cannot be two, because for there to be an beginning and end to something or someone or a being, whatever you want to call it, then that means they're not infinite, or it is not infinite, it is finite. So, it's maybe some of that just went over your head. And again, I'd really encourage you to go watch my Limitless product. But so for me, to give you an example, I'm a pilot as well. I love flying. I dream about flying at night, but in my dreams, I actually fly with my body. But in this physical reality, we don't fly because we have this limitation called gravity, right? But that limitation doesn't defy us, doesn't limit us. We can bend that limitation and just ask the Wright brothers, because they're the one who created flight. In their mind, they imagined that we could build something like a bird, right? And they studied birds. How do birds fly? And they go, well, we could build something to fly. And that now this is all normal. But at one point, to take flight was it was a miracle. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I mean. I mean, our imagination, our mind is infinite, and you have infinite possibilities, and that infinite possibilities bends the rules, the barriers, the limitations that you're experiencing through your physical reality. And that's what I mean by becoming an infinite being in a finite world. Now, your question really wasn't around that. Your question was, well, how did you come to, explore? I'm just putting words in your mouth there, Christina, but it was something along those lines. How did you come? Yeah. I mean, you know what it was? I started asking questions when I was really young. I mean, like 8, 10, 12 years of age. And I remember imagining that I had these superpowers. And I thought to myself, and at that stage, you're 8, 10. It's like, it's in your imagination. And I remember once looking at the clouds, and I would love for it to clear up and become sunny. And it's just, this is how it all started for me. I just started to feel that, we're connected. And now you're probably going, this guy's crazy. But this is, mind you, I was 8 or 10 here. But I was like, we're connected to the clouds. We're connected, to the space between myself and the clouds. And I started to explore, and I would ask these questions, and so for me, let's leave the cloud and I had a profound experience. It just, what happened was, for those who know clouds, it was an
it was a cirrus cloud, very high, thin, they're very thin. And I started to see the sun come through it. And I was just like, oh my God, did I? Like, you know, and so, you know, okay, you know, I was a kid. I'm exploring with my imagination. So you're probably like, okay. But that's how it started for me. I'm going right back there. You're like, well, you know, that's great. You know, that's your imagination. And yes, maybe it was. And I agree with you. But that's the kind of kid I was. And what, you know, later in my years, as I became a teenager and a younger adult, you know, what brought me to question further was like, really? You know, I came here, like, you know, and, you know, I'll tell you, I actually started reading religious texts. I read, you know, the Quran. I'm not religious, but I was fascinated. I read the Bible, you know, I started reading a bit about Buddhism, and I was a kid. Like, I don't remember too much of this, but all I knew, I would go to the library and get these books about different religions. And you know, it just, what dropped in first thing that dropped in for me was like, really? I came here to be tested? And, you know, that's not, you know, I'm not here to talk about any particular religion, but there was this thing that maybe you're here to be tested to see if you're good or bad. And, you know, and that's going to determine whether you go to heaven or hell. And I just was like, and again, I'm not, you know, I never talk about religion. You know, I believe, you know, I had a quote that someone shared yesterday, which I reposted, and there's a quote from Rumi, the great Persian poet. You know, I'm a fan of Rumi. And it was something along the lines of, you know, every religion talks about love, but love has no religion. Oh, like,
yeah.
Let that fucking drop in, motherfucker. Like, seriously. Every religion is talking about love, but love has no religion. And, you know, I know sometimes, you know, some of the things that I might say here right now, it's challenging you. And if you're not willing to challenge yourself and think for yourself and ponder for yourself and come to your own conclusions, then, you know, hang up, unfollow me, you know, unsubscribe from the podcast. I'm all cool with that, right? And I promise I won't talk about religion again, because I never do. You know, I talk about love and I talk about, but I'm sharing how my journey started. I started to study different religions. And the first conclusion that I came to was, I didn't come here to be tested. This is my conclusion. You could say, oh, that you're wrong, and that's fine. I'm not here to say I'm right. I'm just telling you what my conclusion was. My conclusion was, I'm not here to be tested. And I started to realize heaven and hell is a state of mind. You know, and it's something that we're experiencing in our lives right now. Now, let's not get too caught up in that. Okay, I'm happy to drop that right now. But for me, that was my first conclusion, is that I'm not here to be tested. It's like, even if I was here to be tested, why? Why do I need to prove to anyone my love, my worthiness? Like, why? I mean, if you take that question to where, you know, where did we come from? Where did you come from in the first place? If you take that question to where did you come from, and you come to your own conclusions, your own realizations, not what your parents told you, not what they told you at school, not even what you read somewhere. What's your own conclusions to where you came from? Because if you ask the question of where you came from, and even if it's slightly, some light drops in to your own mind, you realize, why would I then be coming here to be tested? It's not a test. It's an opportunity. It's a realization, an opportunity to have a realization of who you are, because you came here to forget yourself momentarily. Again, you go, well, why do we come here to forget? Again, please go download Limitless. I don't have time to right now in this podcast. But that's the first thing that I came across, Christina, is that. It's like, I didn't come here to be tested. Then my next thing, and this was like after, having many failures in business, then having success in business, paying all my debts off, living in, the house I wanted to live in, overlooking, the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge in Sydney Harbour. And life was somewhat good, right? I was still young, I was in my 20s, still early 20s, right? And before that, I had many failures. I was on the verge of bankruptcy. I had my car repossessed. I've had eviction notice from my house. I've had my credit name defaulted. I had banks chasing me for money. So I've had both sides, right? And then my realization that I came to by myself, within myself. Did I really come here to work for a living? Did I really come here to survive? Like, my essence of who I am is life. It's love. Did I really come here to prove my worthiness to the world? My deservingness? Because that's what I was doing. I was chasing this carrot that gets dangled in front of us. And that's what reality is. It's just this and sometimes the carrot, I talk about that being the shiny diamond. The shiny diamond. It's like, oh, if only I can have that, I will have the approval of others. Oh, if only I can have that, I feel more secure. Oh, if only I had that, I feel more love, right? It's this carrot that gets dangled in front of you, and you get to a place where you realize, I'm not going to get that carrot. The carrot is an illusion. So you stop chasing the carrot, and then you know what happens? Society hits you with a stick, and that's how you ride a donkey. A donkey. It hits you with a stick, and then you're like, but if you don't, you're going to run out of money. But if you don't, you won't survive. If you don't, what will people think of you? So then you get stuck in what we call the matrix. But that's where my journey, I feel, really started. Really, I came here to work my butt off. Again, I have nothing wrong with, I have no qualms, I have no reservations in working hard. I work hard, right? But I'm not I put my blood, sweat, and tears, and I grind. I don't do that. I don't like, when I'm right now, this is working hard with you right now. I'm totally present, totally focused. That's to me working hard. But I came here to work my butt off my whole fucking life, so I can then enjoy life, my deservingness, my love. Doesn't make sense. That's not why we came here. I just can't believe that. The intelligence that we are part of, the brain and the body, and how the universe and the tides changing and the seasons and the turn of the earth, the fucking intelligence of this universe. And then we came here to work for a living just so you can fucking survive or even thrive. Sometimes we're so driven to thrive so we can be away, take ourselves further and further away from surviving. You know what I mean by that? Like you get to a point where, I heard somebody say to me, if I had some money, I just want to buy this one car, My personal trainer said that to me. I just want to buy this. He's a younger kid. I just want to buy this one car. And I just looked at him and went, I promise you, when you buy that one car, you're going to want this next thing. It never stops.
Yeah.
It never stops. Or then you want this one garage. Then you want this to be parked in this one suburb because more people will see that car. Then you want this. And all the things that you want is to build up enough space between you surviving. Do you know?
Yeah.
So So what I'm saying is like, you know, the reason why it's never enough is because, okay, well, I want to make I remember when I was like, I would just love to make $10,000 a month. I think I've made it when I make it $10,000 a month. Of course, you get to 10,000, it's not enough. It's 100,000. Oh, if I was making 100,000, like I've made it, right? Then you make 100,000, and you know, it's not that it's not enough, but you kind of feel unsafe. So you need to make more money to make that $100,000 you're making to feel safe. And you need to keep buying more, having more, doing more, accomplish more, grab more status, Motherfucker, is that why you came here? And then you look at the studies done from people who on their deathbeds, and they're like, you know, the biggest regrets is caring about what someone thought of them. And they've got all these goals and all the things they accomplished in order to get the approval or the acceptance or the recognition from people in their lives or from society. And they say, I wish I didn't care. Why? Because then they could be themselves.
Yeah.
I wish I lived more for the moment. I wish I did more of what I loved. I wish I did more and spend more time with the people I love. Like, do you have to be on your deathbed? And sometimes people get the opportunity of having a near-death experience and coming to that realization. And they had this near-death experience and suddenly they have this epiphany and go, you know what? Life is about now. Life is about who I am here. It's about spending who I am with the people I love. It's about doing what I love. It's about doing what I'm one day building myself to do. But it's about doing it now. You know, these are the questions. These are the conclusions that I came to, and listen to me, I came to it on my own. It wasn't in the next book I read. It wasn't in the next seminar. And I've done lots of those seminars. I've done lots. And again, I'll remind you, this is where my work is different. It's not so you can go accomplish all the things that I've accomplished. It's for you to go realize it for yourself. Because until you realize it for yourself, all you're doing is having knowledge. You can't live this with knowledge. You can live it with wisdom. You need to realize it for yourself. You need to ask these questions. The questions that I ask myself is, who am I? Where did I come from? Why am I here? Why am I truly here? Not just your purpose of this and your purpose, like I'm in your soul purpose. Why am I here in this whole big picture thing? And where am I going? Those are the questions that I continuously ask myself, and those are the answers that I realized for myself within myself. Those are the questions that I support people in realizing for themselves. That's what my work is about. And that's where it led me to infinity. And that's when I started going, well, hang on, what is infinity? And how do you live with that infinite possibilities that everyone talks about, but in your everyday life? Not just when you connect to it when you're meditating or having some kind of spiritual experience. You have those experiences to show you or to connect to take you to a place for you to go, shit, that infinity, that energy, that love, that is that's real. Okay, now that you know it's real, how can you bring that into your everyday life? Because that's what I believe we came here to do. Because what's the point if you can't live that? Really? You think someone is like teasing you? And you have these spiritual experiences, you go to this retreat and you have these meditations or whatever, or you do this breath work and you feel this and you have these epiphanies and like, oh my God, this is, and you start to really feel these infinite possibilities, but you can't live it in your everyday life. You can't live it in your family. You can't live it with your health. You can't live it with money, with your business, with your desires. your ideas. You can't. Why not? This is not foreplay. You didn't come here for someone just to foreplay you. I mean, nothing wrong with foreplay. Foreplay is
Right.
it's a big part of it. You know, you don't want just the big bang either. You want the foreplay. But you didn't. My point is, it's not just foreplay you came here for. You came here for the complete picture. And that's when I started. That's what led me to that word infinity. And then everything that I share right now is because of the realizations that I've had in my life about that word. It's so misinterpreted. Do you know what the biggest misinterpretation is? The biggest misinterpretation of that word infinity is like, oh, I am infinite. Motherfucker, you ain't shit. When you point to yourself as this body and you go, I am infinite. Because I can do this because I am infinite. You're not. That's not the part that's infinite. And you know what people say? People say, oh, if I'm infinite, then I can have anything I want. Yes, that is true. But anything that you really want, because most of the things you want is not what you want. It's you want that as a means to an end to get more status, to get more attention, to get more likes on social media, to get more money. You don't want money. People are like, well, of course I do. No, you want what money gives you. But you hypnotize yourself with money. Anyway, that's going into manifestation. I'm going to stop right there. Right? But that's some of the misinterpretations about that word infinity,
Yeah.
So much. I love that word. Why did you get me started on this, Christina?
Well, I'm so glad you went there because I have heard some of your different stories there before, but I love when you were sharing that, like, at first it was like, did we come here to be tested? And then also, like, did we come here just to survive? And like where that led you to, like, actually ask yourself those questions. Because, like, I think we can all relate that we feel that, like, infinite possibilities is true. But, it's not just something you're scrolling through and it's a nice quote on your phone then. Like, you actually took it away. You stopped and you sat and you asked yourself those questions and came to your own realizations. And that's what's so amazing about your work. But, because you support other people to do the same. But I just loved, how you went back and shared how it started for you from such a young age. Because I think so many people, myself included, can relate to that, like, that open-mindedness and open-heartedness you had as, like, a child, where you can feel those possibilities. And it's like, if you go back, you can relate to that. And somehow, like, throughout all of it, we start to feel like we have to prove ourselves and do everything to survive. And it's like we start to not be ourselves anymore. I think that was, like, the biggest thing that stood out for me. What you were saying is, like, it's like, yeah, maybe you are still working hard, but you're not compromising who you are anymore to, like, try to prove something. And yeah, so I'm so happy you answered that question for me, because I have been wondering how infinity came to be such a big part of your work. Like, you actually took it away and asked yourself those questions.
Chrissy, I feel like, just to get some clarity about working hard, because I say, it's not like, I've got that book that I want to write, with the title. Should I reveal it to everyone here? We haven't come to it yet. No, I'm not going to reveal it right now but that was a tease, wasn't it? Everyone's like, what book? It's the title's fantastic, but look, for me, working hard it's not about blood, sweat and tears. For me, when I work hard, it's effortless. Right now I'm working hard and I made it clear that when I'm working hard is being present. So you're working hard being present, which allows you to be focused in doing what you're doing. But I'm doing something that feels true for me. So when I'm, and I just want to make this clear, when you're working hard and I just said to you right now, it becomes effortless. It's not suddenly, it means it requires no effort. It means your soul is flying. Like when I'm doing this, my soul is not tied down. It's flying at the moment. It feels alive. So when you're doing what's true for you, what for the true reasons, you know, it becomes effortless because your soul is flying. So I just wanted to add that. Like, I mean, let's look at my day. Okay, I just want to show you, like, my day today. Let's talk about it really quickly. I got up at 6 a.m. No, I got up at 5 a.m. Okay, I ran my first coaching group at 6 a.m. And, you know, I normally do it at that time because I have a lot of international clients. That went to about 7:30. At 7:30, I went and said hello to the kids, gave them a kiss, and I left to the gym. At 8 o'clock, between 8 and 9, I did a gym session with my personal trainer. At 9 o'clock, I had a phone meeting in the sauna because I jumped in the sauna at that time, and I sat in the sauna for about 45 minutes. And then I jumped into the ice bath for about, 3 or 4 minutes. I think I did 4 minutes today, and then went into the hot tub, and that was my morning. Okay. I then came and saw my wife. We made love. No, I'm kidding.
Had a quickie.
Maybe we did, maybe we didn't. Okay. But I saw her. Maybe we just did some foreplay, maybe, right? But then after that, she left. And now I'm doing this podcast with you. And you know what I'm doing after this, Christina? I'm going to lunch at my favorite cafe, not with anyone, just by myself. I love eating by myself. I'm going to my favorite cafe in Bondi to just go and have lunch there. I'd go there, at least 5 times a week. And then after that, I think I got a meeting at 3 or 4 o'clock with my marketing, the agency. And I don't have my calendar in front of me, but, I'm not saying this to like boast or anything or, I'm just having a quick look. Yep, after that, I'm free. And, tomorrow doesn't look too much different to that, right? But when I'm working with you and what I'm doing, I'm totally present. I'm totally committed. I'm totally showing up, right? Mm-hmm. But that's my day. Yeah. That's my day. And it doesn't look too different tomorrow. It doesn't, except tomorrow I have a 5 o'clock coaching group as well, 5 p.m. It doesn't look too different. And on the weekends, I usually fly airplanes. So on a Saturday, I go, although I'm not at the moment, my aircraft are getting some maintenance done to them. But I would be flying on a weekend, and that would be my job on the weekend. I have an aviation business, and I take people up for aerobatic joy flights and train some of my pilots, etc. Like, that's me working hard. Like I'm not grinding, but I'm not afraid to get up at 5 a.m. to do my first coaching call at 6 a.m. before I go to the gym. Yeah. I'm not afraid of hard work, but I understand any hard work that I do is in complete balance. I'll never work more than 8 hours in a day. And I always ensure that I get at least 8 hours of sleep every night. So if I'm going to get up at 5 a.m., I'm going to bed at around 8 and 9. And I always ensure that I have 8 hours for myself, my family. Just going for lunch by myself right now is, we have, if you split it, the 24 hours in a day, you've got 8 and 8. 8 hours for yourself, your own self-reflection, your own self-realization, your family, doing what you love, your hobbies. 8 hours is for sleeping. You can't cut that. Yeah, sometimes you might get 6, okay, but just make sure it averages out to 8. And 8 hours is for work, no more than that. We didn't come here to work for a living. So, I know we've digressed now, complete different topic, but that's what I just wanted to point out. Sorry to interrupt, Christina. I just wanted to point out what it looks like when you're using your infinite possibilities.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like for me.
Yes.
That's all.
And No, I'm glad that you gave that example, like just like what a day in the life looks like, because, you know, that's what it looks like when you have integrated those questions that you asked yourself, like, and you know who you are, and now you can actually live it, and it's not just some nice concept that you're scrolling past on Instagram, right?
And that's my biggest thing is, like, I keep asking everyone, because that's what I asked myself. Like, I know you know this. I know you feel it. But motherfucker, can you live it? That was my own self-talk. Can you live it? And that's when I started to share this with other people. And that's, I love sharing this with other people. It's what I do. And it's so rewarding to see people to, you know, drop in to that infinite space. And the more you do that, and the more, like I said, we're here to be infinite being in a finite world. But as you become infinite, and by becoming infinite, I mean you become the greatest version of yourself. You become infinite in your mind, in your heart. The story bends around that. Your body changes. You know, we were just talking about, was it you I was just talking about before we started the podcast recording? I said, it's my birthday tomorrow. I'm turning 45. And I said, you know, I was just talking to my wife about this. I'm like, I feel like this is the strongest I've ever been. Like at the gym, I lift more. I feel like, and I said to you, Chrissy, I don't know if this is true. It can't be true. But I feel like I'm fitter now than I was when I was in my 20s. And when I was in my, 18, 19 playing rugby. It can't be true. It can't be true. Maybe I'm just, but I feel like it. I feel like I'm more fitter. I'm more healthier. I'm more energized. I'm more courageous. I'm more loving. Like, I mean, the story, forget about people want to manifest, and they want their story, meaning their circumstances, to change. The most powerful thing that you're going to get is your physical reality, you as your body, as this changes. Like you feel alive. As Rumi says, you're not the drop in the ocean, you're the entire ocean in the drop. You start to feel the entire ocean in your drop. Like, yes, of course. As you become the greater version of yourself, you start to change. Everything starts to change. The way you see things, the way you respond, your level of attachments, what your expectations are changes.
Yeah.
Everything changes. And yes, your business changes and all the other stuff that comes secondary. But most people make it about all the secondary stuff. Oh, does that mean I make more money? Does it mean it's like that stuff becomes irrelevant. It becomes irrelevant.
I am wondering, like, if we're getting any just like brand new listeners, like just jumping in for the first time to this particular episode, because, it's what you're touching on. It's reminding me of like, and the question that I've asked you today, it's reminding me of like way back before I had even found your work. And I would just so encourage people, if they haven't, and even if they've seen some of your work before, to go and check out Limitless, because if this is resonating in your heart, like I'm just remembering what that felt like for me. You've got to go and watch that, and it changed my life forever. So
it's pretty simple. If this resonates with you, I created the work, Limitless, the product, to help you to live this.
Yeah.
That's it. If it resonates with you, go for it. Go download it. It's there. And
Well, I'm excited to be having these conversations again. Not that we haven't been having them in other forms, but exciting to be putting them out there again. And I just want to thank. You have any last words before we close out today?
Ashley, thanks for checking in with me. I want to highlight that you are the voice of the people. So if things come up here and you have questions for me, or you're like, can you talk about this topic, etc., please email us. You can actually email directly to Christina to Ask AZ. So Ask AZ askaz@amirzogi.com. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
So, you know, that's what Christina, I mean, I love talking with you. It's so easy. And that's why you're my co-host when we do this. Like, we're not even interviewing anyone. It's very rare that I actually sit down with someone and interview them. It's just discussions, you know, it's just, as I like to call it in Australia, we're chewing the fat, you know, about some juicy conversations. So, but we'd love for you to be, you know, take part of this podcast. And by taking part, drop in an email. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you're feeling. Pose a question. I'd love for you guys to talk about this. What about when this happens? What about when that happens? Yeah. So I just kind of wanted to drop that in there as well, because I'm sure that email's still up and running, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Or if it's not, I'll make sure it is now before this airs.
Yeah.
But no, I'm really glad you said that, because I just really, really love it when people do reach out and participate in the conversation. It's so great to hear where you guys are at and like what you want to hear more of. So I promise to bring that into the conversation. So thanks, Zogs, for such a good chat today, and happy birthday.
Thank you. Yes. 45 tomorrow. So I got a dinner with the family, and it's nice.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in today, and we will see you on, what is it you say, the next perfect moment?
I'll see you motherfuckers the next perfect moment. No, I'm kidding. That's not what I say. But hey, well, I just said it. I know. Yeah, I'll see you guys in the next perfect moment. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.